The fluorescent lights hummed softly in the elevator, casting a sterile glow on the scuffed metal walls. Sarah Thompson pressed the button for the 10th floor, her keys jingling in her hand after a long day at the office. The doors slid shut with a familiar whoosh, and the car began its ascent. She leaned against the back wall, scrolling through her phone, the numbers ticking up on the panel. 3, 4, 5. Routine, predictable. Just another evening in her quiet life. Then, without warning, the elevator slowed between the 8th and 9th floors. A faint jolt, barely noticeable, but enough to make her glance up. The panel blinked. 9. But it wasn't stopping at 9. It was hovering, the doors sealed tight. Sarah straightened, her thumb pausing on the screen. "Come on," she muttered, jabbing the 10th floor button again. Nothing. The hum grew irregular, like a breath catching in the machine's throat. Suddenly, the elevator lurched upward, but not to 10. The panel lit up with a number she'd never seen before. 16. Sarah's heart skipped. The building only had 12 floors. She knew that. She'd lived here for 3 years. In a modest brick high-rise on the edge of suburban Cleveland, where the apartments were affordable and the neighbors kept to themselves. Floor 16 didn't exist. It couldn't. The doors parted with a ding that echoed too loudly in the empty space beyond. Cool air rushed in, carrying a faint musty scent, like old paper and forgotten rain. Sarah peered out, her breath shallow. There was a hallway, dimly lit by a single bulb swinging gently from the ceiling. The walls were the same faded beige as the lower floors, but the carpet looked untouched, pristine, as if no one had walked it in years. Doors lined both sides, numbered starting from 1601. No signs of construction, no barriers, just this. She stepped back, her hand hovering over the close button. But curiosity tugged at her, that quiet pull of the unexplained. "Hello?" she called softly, her voice swallowed by the silence. No answer. The elevator waited, doors open, patient. Against her better judgment, Sarah took one step out, then another, her sneakers sinking into the impossibly soft carpet. The doors remained ajar behind her, a lifeline glowing in the gloom. Sarah had always been the practical one. 32, single, working as an accountant in a mid-sized firm downtown. Her days blurred into spreadsheets and coffee runs, her evenings into takeout and Netflix in her one-bedroom on the 10th floor. The building, Willow Heights, was a relic from the 70s, solid, unremarkable, with a lobby that smelled of lemon polish and a superintendent who fixed leaks but never smiled. She liked it that way. No drama, no surprises. Her routine was her anchor. Up at 6:30, elevator down at 7:15, home by 6:45. Predictable steps in a world that felt increasingly unsteady. Lately, though, small things had started to fray the edges. A neighbor's door left ajar when it was always locked. Her mail slot stuffed with envelopes addressed to someone named Elias, postmarked from decades ago. She'd chalked it up to the building's age, the way old places held onto echoes. But this was different. She walked a few feet down the hall, the bulb above swaying just enough to cast shifting shadows. The air felt thicker here, pressing against her skin like an unspoken question. Door 1603 was slightly open, a sliver of darkness beyond. Sarah hesitated, then pushed it wider with her fingertips. Inside was an apartment much like hers. Kitchenette, living room, a faint outline of furniture shrouded in dust sheets. But the window, it overlooked nothing she recognized. No city skyline, no distant highway lights, just endless grey fog, swirling lazily against the glass. A chill crawled up her spine. She backed away, heart pounding now, and hurried toward the elevator. The doors were still open, but as she stepped in, the panel flickered. 16 again. She slammed the close button, the doors grinding shut. The descent began, slow at first, then picking up speed. By the time it reached 10, her hands were trembling. She burst into the hallway, fumbling with her keys, and locked her door behind her with 3 deadbolts. That night, sleep came in fits. The hum of the elevator echoed in her mind, a mechanical whisper that wouldn't fade. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the impossible floor. Had she imagined it? Stress from work, maybe, the endless audits, the quiet loneliness of her evenings. But the musty scent lingered in her nostrils, real as the carpet fibers she'd tracked in on her shoes. The next morning, over coffee in the kitchen, Sarah tried to shake it off. She glanced at the building directory in the lobby on her way out. Still 12 floors, no mention of 16. The doorman, Mr. Hargrove, nodded as usual, his eyes distant behind thick glasses. "Quiet night?" she asked, testing the waters. He shrugged. "Always is. You look like you didn't sleep much." "Just a weird dream," she lied, forcing a smile, but as the elevator doors closed on the way down, she watched the panel closely. 1, 2, 3, no glitches. Normal. Work dragged that day, numbers blurring on her screen. By afternoon, her mind wandered back to the hallway, the fogged window. What if it wasn't a dream? What if the building hid something, layered beneath the everyday? She pushed the thought away, focusing on the clock. Home by 6:45, as always. But when she returned, the elevator felt different. The hum was the same, but the air inside carried a trace of that musty scent. She pressed 10, and it ascended smoothly until the 8th floor. The car slowed again, that same faint jolt. Sarah's breath caught. The panel blinked. 9. Then, unbidden, 16. The doors opened to the same hallway, the bulb swaying like a pendulum. This time she didn't step out. "No!" she whispered, jabbing the buttons frantically. The door stayed open, the silence from the hall pressing in, inviting. Footsteps echoed faintly, soft, deliberate, approaching from the far end, not rushing, just coming. She backed into the corner, eyes fixed on the empty corridor. The footsteps grew closer, a rhythmic tap that matched her pulse. Then, around the bend, a shadow stretched long under the light. Not a person, not quite. Just a silhouette, blurring at the edges, like ink in water. The doors finally shuddered closed, the elevator dropping like a stone. Sarah slid down the wall, knees to her chest, as the numbers raced by. 10. Safe. But when she stumbled into her apartment, the air felt wrong. Her mail slot held a single envelope, yellowed with age. Inside, a note in faded ink. "Welcome to 16. We've been waiting." She dropped it, the paper fluttering to the floor. The building groaned around her, settling into night, and somewhere above or below, the hum resumed, patient, unending. Sarah sat frozen on her living room floor, the yellowed envelope crumpled beside her. The note's words stared up from the paper, elegant script looping like veins under skin. "Welcome to 16, we've been waiting." Her fingers itched to tear it apart, but she couldn't move. The apartment, usually a sanctuary of muted greys and stacked books, felt constricted now, walls leaning in with the weight of the unseen. She forced herself to stand, legs unsteady, and crossed to the window. Outside, the suburban sprawl of Cleveland stretched under sodium streetlights, neat lawns, parked sedans, the distant hum of the interstate. Normal, reassuring. But when she turned back, the note seemed to mock her from the floor. She snatched it up, stuffing it into a drawer with yesterday's junk mail. Out of sight, maybe out of mind. Tomorrow she'd talk to the superintendent, or the doorman, someone who could explain the impossible. Sleep was a lost cause that night. She tossed in sheets that smelled faintly of the musty air from floor 16. The elevator's hum replaying in her ears like a distant train. By dawn, exhaustion had dulled the edges but not the questions. Who was Elias? Why her mail? And that shadow, had it been real or just the light playing tricks? Morning routine kicked in on autopilot, coffee brewing in the single-serve machine, toast popping up golden. Sarah dressed in her usual blouse and slacks, the fabric armour against the unease. In the lobby, Mr. Hargrove was at his post, polishing the brass mailbox slots with a rag that had seen better days. He was in his 60s, retired from the auto plant, with a voice like gravel under tires. "Morning, Miss Thompson," he said, not looking up. "You seem off today." She paused by the directory, tracing the etched numbers, basement 1 through 12, no 16. "Hargrove, has this building always had 12 floors? I mean, really always?" He straightened, wiping his hands on his apron. "Far as I know, built in 72, 12 stories high. Why?" "Just curious. Old place like this, you hear stories." She forced a laugh, light and dismissive. He nodded, eyes flicking back to his work. But something in his posture shifted, guarded like he'd heard the question before. The elevator ride down was uneventful. The panel ticking off floors without a hitch. Work swallowed her day, audits piling up, a client's numbers that refused to balance. By lunch, she texted her friend Lisa from college, now a realtor in the suburbs. "Ever hear weird stuff about Willow Heights, like hidden floors or something?" Lisa's reply buzzed in, "LOL, ghost stories. Nah, it's just an old brick box. Why, buying?" Sarah deleted the thread, not ready to sound unhinged. But the seed was planted. Afternoon dragged, her mind wandering to that pristine carpet, the fogged window. What lay beyond the grey? Another world? Or just her imagination cracking under the monotony? Homebound at 6:45, the elevator waited in the lobby, doors yawning open. She stepped in alone, pressing 10. The ascent began smoothly. 1, 2. The hum was steady, almost soothing, but at 5 a soft click echoed from the panel, like a gear slipping into place. Sarah's pulse quickened. She watched the numbers. 6, 7. No jolt this time. Just a subtle vibration thrumming through the floor. 8. The car slowed but didn't stop. 9 hovered, the light flickering once. Then, uninvited, 16 illuminated. The doors slid open to the same dim hallway, the bulbs swaying in lazy arcs. That musty scent wafted in, stronger now, laced with something metallic, like rust on old keys. Sarah's hand shot to the close button, but her eyes locked on the corridor. It looked different. The doors were all shut now, no sliver of openness at 1603. But at the far end, where the shadow had emerged last night, a faint glow seeped from under the baseboard. Not warm light, cold, bluish like moonlight through cracked ice. "Hello?" Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper. Silence answered, thick and expectant. Then a sound. Not footsteps this time, but a low murmur. Voices, too muffled to make out words, overlapping in a rhythm that suggested conversation or chanting. From where? The walls. The air itself? She stepped halfway out, drawn despite the fear coiling in her gut. The carpet muffled her steps, pristine as fresh snow. Up close, the doors bore faint scratches, names, initials. Elias was etched lightly on 1605, the letters worn smooth. Her breath hitched. The envelope from her mail slot. Coincidence? The murmurs grew clearer, a snippet floating toward her. Waiting. Finally. Sarah froze. Her name? No. Impossible. She backed up, heart hammering, and lunged for the elevator. The doors began to close as she hit the button, but they caught on something invisible, grinding open again. The hallway stretched, shadows lengthening as the bulbs swung faster. Panic surged. She jabbed every button. Lobby, 10, even the emergency stop. The panel sparked, numbers blurring. Finally, the doors sealed with a hiss and the car plummeted. 10. She stumbled out, Gasping, the hallway lights buzzing overhead like angry insects. Inside her apartment, she double-checked the locks, then paced the living room. The drawer where she'd hidden the note rattled faintly. No, just her imagination. She pulled it open. The envelope was there, but now unsealed, the paper inside crisp, as if newly written. "We've been waiting," it read, but a new line below. "Come back soon, Sarah." She slammed the drawer, backing away. How? No one had been in her place. The building's groans filtered through the vents, pipes settling or something more. She grabbed her phone, dialing the front desk. No answer. Hargrove's line rang into voicemail, his gravelly recording. "Leave a message. I'll get to it." Night fell heavy, the city lights twinkling indifferently outside. Sarah curled on the couch, a blanket pulled tight, but sleep evaded her. Every creak in the floorboards echoed like footsteps above or below. The hum started then, faint through the ceiling, rising and falling like breath. She pressed her ear to the wall, listening. It wasn't the elevator. It was voices again, whispering her name in the spaces between. By midnight, doubt crept in. Was she losing it? The stress, the isolation, 32 and alone in a city that swallowed people whole. Maybe she should call in sick tomorrow, see a doctor, get out of this place. But as the clock ticked past 1, the hum swelled and the lights in her apartment dimmed. Not a blackout, just a flicker, casting her shadow long across the room. She didn't sleep. Dawn brought no relief, only the resolve to confront it. No more ignoring the frayed edges. After coffee, she headed to the lobby, determined to corner Hargrove. But the directory had changed. Faintly, etched below 12, was a new number, 16, scratched in, recent. Her hand trembled as she traced it. Hargrove was there, but when she asked about the floor, his face paled. "Miss Thompson," he said quietly, glancing at the empty elevator. "Some things in old buildings, they don't stay buried. Best not to dig." She pressed him, but he turned away, muttering about maintenance calls. The elevator dinged behind her, doors opening to an empty car. The panel glowed innocently, 1 through 12. But as she stepped in, pressing 10, a chill settled. The hum resumed, patient, pulling her upward into the unknown. The elevator ascended with a steadiness that felt mocking, the numbers climbing 1 by 1. 4, 5, 6. Sarah gripped the handrail, her knuckles white, willing the routine to hold. Hargrove's words echoed in her head. Some things don't stay buried. A warning wrapped in vagueness, like the fog she'd glimpsed beyond that impossible window. She glanced at the panel, half expecting the glitch, but it stayed true. 10. The doors parted to her familiar hallway, lined with the same scuffed doors and the faint scent of someone's cooking. Garlic and onions, probably from 1004. She hurried inside, locking the deadbolts with deliberate clicks. Each one a small barrier against the unraveling. The apartment welcomed her back with its quiet order. The kitchen counter wiped clean that morning, her laptop humming softly on the coffee table where she'd left it charging. Normal. She kicked off her shoes, poured a glass of water from the fridge, and sank onto the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. Her reflection stared back, eyes shadowed with fatigue, hair escaping its ponytail in wispy strands. 32 felt heavier today, like the years were piling on all at once. To ground herself, Sarah pulled out her notebook, the one she used for work sketches, but tonight for something else. She jotted down the details, the musty smell, the swaying bulb, the note with her name, Elias on the door, the murmurs. Her handwriting came out shaky, ink smudging where her palm brushed the page. Was this paranoia? The building's age playing tricks on her mind, or worse, on the wiring? Willow Heights had its quirks. Creaky pipes in winter, the occasional power flicker during storms, but nothing like this. She tore out the page, folding it into her pocket. Evidence, if she needed it later. Dinner was microwave pasta, Eaton standing at the counter, the steam curling up like questions she couldn't answer. She scrolled through her phone, searching Willow Heights Cleveland history. Articles popped up. Built in 1972 on the site of an old warehouse district converted to apartments during the oil crunch. No mentions of extra floors, no scandals. One forum thread from a decade ago complained about weird drafts and elevator delays, but users dismissed it as cheap maintenance. Sarah closed the app, unease settling deeper. If it was nothing, why did the directory change? Why did Hargrove look away? As night deepened, the city's hum filtered through the window. Cars on the interstate, a dog barking 2 blocks over. She tried Netflix, some light comedy to drown the thoughts, but the laugh track grated, hollow against the silence of her space. Around 9 she heard it, the elevator, distant but unmistakable, that irregular hum rising through the vents, not stopping on 10, but passing, whispering upward. She muted the TV, straining to listen. It grew fainter, then stopped. Silence stretched, broken only by the tick of her wall clock. Curiosity won over caution. Sarah slipped on her sneakers and cracked her door, peering into the hallway. Empty, the overhead lights steady. But at the far end, near the elevator bank, a shadow shifted. Not a person, just the play of light from a maintenance bulb. She stepped out, barefoot now, padding quietly toward it. The air in the hall felt cooler, carrying a trace of that metallic tang. The elevator doors were closed, panel dark. She pressed the call button, watching the numbers above. Nothing. No car descending. Back in her apartment, she double-checked the locks, then wedged a chair under the doorknob for good measure. Paranoff? Maybe. But sleep-called, exhaustion pulling her under despite the whirl in her mind. Dreams came fragmented, endless corridors, doors numbered in looping script, a voice murmuring Elias like a secret she should know. She woke once, around 2, sweat dampened, the room pitch black. The power? No, just the timer on her lamp. But as she reached for the switch, a soft scrape echoed from the kitchen, like a drawer easing open, heart thudding. She froze, listening. Nothing. She crept forward, flipping on the light. The kitchen was untouched, counters bare, fridge humming innocently. The drawer with the note, though, she pulled it open slowly. The envelope sat there, sealed again, as if she'd imagined unsealing it. But inside, the paper was the same, words unchanged. Relief mixed with dread. At least it wasn't rewriting itself. She shut it firmly, sliding the drawer home with a click that seemed too loud in the quiet. Morning light filtered through the blinds, grey and overcast, the kind of Cleveland day that promised rain. Sarah skipped the lobby, taking the stairs down, 10 flights, legs burning by the 5th, but better than risking the elevator. At work, the office buzzed with the usual rhythm, phones ringing, printers whirring, colleagues chatting about weekend plans. She buried herself in spreadsheets, numbers a welcome distraction. By noon, though, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Need to talk about Willow Heights. Meet at the diner on Elm, 7 p.m. H. Hargrove. It had to be. She stared at the screen, thumb hovering over delete. But the pull was there, the need for answers outweighing the fear. Okay, she texted back, then deleted the thread for good measure. The day crawled by, every clock glance amplifying the wait. Home via bus this time, avoiding the building's shadow until dusk. She changed into jeans and a sweater, something casual for the meet, and headed out on foot. Elm Street was a short walk, past manicured lawns and glowing porch lights. The suburb alive with evening routines, kids on bikes, a man walking his Labrador. The diner, a classic chrome relic called Millie's, sat at the corner, neon sign flickering, open in red cursive. Inside, the air smelled of fries and pie crust, booths upholstered in faded vinyl. Hargrove was in the back corner, nursing a coffee, his apron swapped for a flannel shirt. He nodded as she slid in across from him, eyes darting to the door. "You came," he said, voice low. "Didn't think you would." "The note, that was you?" He shook his head. "No, but I know about 16. Lived in this town my whole life, Willow Heights. It wasn't always apartments. Back in 72 they rushed the build, cut corners. Rumors say they sealed off the top for storage or something else. Elias was the architect, disappeared during construction. Folks said he got trapped up there in the walls." Sarah leaned in, the diner's chatter fading around them. "Trapped how? And the elevator? It's real. I saw the hall, the doors." Hargrove's cup paused midway to his lips. "Seen it too, years ago. Came back down shaking. Told myself it was exhaust fumes. But the whispers. Udi they call to people who listen. Lonely ones, like you, maybe?" She bristled. "I'm not. Listen," he cut in, glancing over her shoulder. "Don't go back. Report the elevator to maintenance. Say it's faulty. Move if you can. Some doors shouldn't open." The waitress refilled his coffee, breaking the moment. Sarah paid for her untouched tea and left, the night air crisp against her skin. Hargrove's words clung like damp fog. Elias, trapped, whispers, calling. Was that what the murmurs were? Echoes of the past, reaching out. Back at the building, the lobby light buzzed faintly as she entered. The directory, still marked with 16, scratched deeper now. She took the stairs again, breath ragged by 10, collapsing against her door. Inside, the apartment felt altered, shadows pooling in corners where light should reach. She flicked on every lamp, but the hum started anyway, vibrating through the floorboards. This time it was closer, insistent. Sarah pressed her ear to the wall, the voices clearer, not chanting, but fragments. "Sarah, come up. Join us." Her name, woven into the murmur, she backed away, pulse racing, and grabbed her phone. 911. For what? A ghost floor? Instead, she dialed Lisa again. "It's not a joke," she said when her friend answered, voice trembling. "Something's wrong with my building." Lisa paused, concern softening her tone. "Okay, breathe. Want me to come over or crash at my place?" Tempting. But as Sarah hesitated, the lights flickered. Once, twice. The hum peaked, then cut off. Silence rushed in, heavier than before. "Tomorrow," she whispered. "I'll explain tomorrow." She hung up, curling on the bed fully clothed, the notebook clutched in her hand. The night wore on, every sound amplified. A car door slamming downstairs, wind rattling the window. But beneath it the building breathed, alive with secrets, and in the quiet hours, as sleep finally tugged at her, Sarah wondered if closing her eyes would bring her closer to 16, or pull it down to her. Sarah lay motionless in the dim glow of her bedside lamp, the notebook's edges digging into her palm like a talisman she couldn't release. The apartment's walls seemed to pulse faintly with the city's distant rhythm, tires on wet pavement, a siren wailing blocks away. But underneath it all, Willow Heights held its breath. She stared at the ceiling cracks, tracing patterns that looked like numbers, 16, etched in plaster veins. Sleep hovered at the edges of her vision, but every time her eyelids drooped, the murmurs returned, soft as silk, unraveling. "Sarah, it's time." She sat up abruptly, the bed springs creaking in protest. The clock read 3:17 a.m., the witching hour her grandmother used to call it, back in the old family home in upstate New York. Superstitions, she'd said, were just stories for rainy nights. But this felt heavier, like the building itself was weaving the tale around her. Sarah swung her legs over the side of the bed, feet meeting the cool hardwood. She needed air, something to clear the fog in her head. The window overlooked the parking lot, sodium lamps casting orange pools on the asphalt. A few cars sat silent, one with its headlights forgotten on, blinking weakly like an eye refusing to close. Padding to the kitchen, she filled a glass from the tap, the water tasting faintly metallic, like the air from that impossible hallway. Hargrove's face flickered in her mind, his guarded eyes at the diner, the way he'd stirred his coffee endlessly, as if buying time before the words spilled out. Elias, the architect, trapped in the walls. Was that metaphor, or something literal? Bones in the framework. She shook her head, setting the glass down too hard. No, this was Cleveland, not some Gothic novel. Rational explanations. Faulty wiring, carbon monoxide from the old boiler, her own isolation amplifying shadows into shapes. But the drawer called to her, that pull she couldn't ignore. She opened it slowly, the wood whispering against the track. The envelope lay there, undisturbed, its yellowed edges curling like fingers. She lifted it, turning it over. No new marks, no additions. Just the same 2 lines, faded but insistent. "Welcome to 16. We've been waiting. Come back soon, Sarah." Her name, added after. How? A prank from Hargrove? Or someone else in the building, watching her routines, slipping notes through slots like anonymous letters in a bad thriller? She replaced it, closing the drawer with a soft thud. Back in the living room, she sank into the couch, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. The TV remote tempted her, but silence felt safer now, a way to listen for the hum. It started then, faint at first, vibrating through the floor like a train approaching from afar. Not the elevator this time, deeper, from the building's core. Sarah held her breath, ears straining. The murmurs joined it, layered voices blending into a low harmony. Names, fragments of conversations, pleas that dissolved into static. Elias, Sarah, join us. Her skin prickled, the hairs on her arms standing as if charged. She stood, crossing to the intercom panel by the door, a relic from the 70s, rarely used except for delivery buzzes. She pressed the button for the lobby, holding it down. Static hissed back, then a click. "Hargrove?" No answer. She tried again, voice low. "It's Sarah, 10th floor. I need to talk." Silence, broken only by the hum growing louder, now resonating in her chest like a second heartbeat. Desperation edged in. She grabbed her keys, slipping into the hallway despite the hour. The corridor stretched empty, emergency lights casting long shadows that danced like waiting figures. The elevator bank loomed at the end, doors closed. Panel dark. She pressed the call button, the ding echoing too sharply, the numbers lit up above, a car descending from 12? No, it flickered. 16. Her stomach twisted. The doors parted with a sigh, revealing the familiar scuffed interior, empty and inviting. Against every instinct, Sarah stepped in. No destination in mind, just the need to confront it, to prove it was machinery gone wrong. She didn't press any button. The doors closed on their own, the car humming to life. Upward, smooth at first. 1, 2. The air thickened, carrying that musty scent, now mingled with something sweeter, like aged paperbacks in a forgotten library. 8, 9. The jolt came, subtle, and the panel shifted. 16. The doors opened to the hallway, the single bulb swaying in a breeze from nowhere. But tonight, it felt alive, shadows shifting not just with the light, but as if breathing. Sarah stepped out, sneakers silent on the carpet. The doors remained open behind her, a glowing rectangle of safety. She walked forward, drawn to 1605, where Elias was scratched into the wood. Up close, the marks were deliberate, not random. ELIAS, followed by dates, 1972, the year of construction. Below, fainter, other names, initials clustered like signatures on a petition. The murmurs swelled from behind the door, clear now, individual voices overlapping, a man's gravelly like Hargrove's. "We built it to last." A woman's, soft and pleading, Don't leave us here. And deeper a chorus, Sarah, you hear us? Come in. Her hand trembled on the knob, cool brass under her palm. Turn it. Don't. The building groaned around her, a deep settle from above, as if the weight of unseen floors pressed down. She twisted the knob, the door easing open without resistance. Inside, the apartment mirrored hers, but frozen in time. Furniture under dust sheets, a calendar on the wall stuck on July 1972. The window showed the same swirling fog, but closer now, tendrils pressing against the glass like fingers testing the barrier. No violence in the scene, just abandonment, a life paused mid-breath. On the kitchen table, a blueprint unfurled. Plans for Willow Heights, 12 floors sketched in precise lines. But in the margins, handwritten notes. Expand upward, hidden level for archives, Elias insists, and circled, 16, eternal. Understanding hit her then, not in a rush of horror, but a slow seep like ink spreading on wet paper. This wasn't a trap or haunting. It was a remnant, a layer the building refused to forget. Elias hadn't disappeared. He'd become part of it, his vision sealed away, calling to those who noticed the cracks. And her? The loneliness of her days, the routine that echoed his isolation, had tuned her in. The whispers weren't threats, they were invitations to belong, to step out of the ordinary into something enduring. Sarah backed away, the door clicking shut behind her. The murmurs faded to echoes, satisfied. She returned to the elevator, stepping in as the doors closed obligingly. Downward, 16, 10. The hallway greeted her with normalcy, lights steady. A neighbor's door ajar, with TV laughter spilling out. Inside her apartment, the hum quieted, the drawer undisturbed. She didn't sleep the rest of the night, sitting by the window with coffee gone cold. Dawn broke grey, the suburb stirring. Cars starting, a jogger pounding pavement. Sarah watched, feeling the pull still. Faint, but there. Move. Report it. Or answer one day, when the routine weighed too heavy. The directory in the lobby would be clean again by morning, she knew, but in her pocket the notebook page crinkled, a map of her own making, leading upward, and as the sun climbed, the elevator hummed once more, patient, waiting for the next ascent.